Welcome to the Hockey Writers Maple Leafs Lounge, a weekly show from our Toronto Maple Leafs writing crew, bringing you the latest news, rumors, trades, player grades, prospects, and much more. From training camp to the playoffs, from draft day to the trade deadline, our team covers everything that happens with the blue and white. Come on in and pull up a chair. Welcome to the Maple Leafs Lounge.
Welcome back to the Maple Leafs Lounge. I am your host, Peter Baracchini, and once again, I am always joined by my colleague over at the Hockey Writers, Alex Hobson. Julian Mongillo is not with us today because, he's at something called the Heritage Classic, and, we're going to try and look out for him, see him on the big screen. Really hope he's enjoying his time because that is a really once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to attend a outdoor game. But before we get into the show, Alex, how's it going?
Things have been good lately, man. I know I've been off for a couple of weeks, so I'm excited to be back on the lounge and chat about the past couple of weeks of what's been going on in Leafs Nation. I know there's, as our old host Kevin always used to say, there's never a dull moment to whether it's good or bad. So we got lots to talk about as always. I'm happy to be back.
Never dull moment indeed. And yes, we got quite a bit of bad, but also some good in the process. And once again, this show this week is brought to you in part by morningskate.io, a daily newsletter delivered to your inbox Monday to Friday from the Hockey Writers, which is jam-packed of the best hockey stuff on the planet. You get your daily fix of NHL news, rumors, histories, quizzes, funny moments, and the list goes on. Just a little bit of hockey fun and information for you for the day from us at the Hockey Writers. All you got to do is just put your email in and you are good to go. So to kick off the show, obviously the biggest news of the week was Jack Campbell and his rib injury. It was reported that he would be out a minimum of 2 weeks to recover. And this is a bit concerning considering, Jack Campbell wasn't at his best. He was struggling at times. He had a week off to try and regroup mentally, and now he comes back. And after the Seattle Kraken game, he gets diagnosed with the rib injury. And not an ideal scenario given that we're weeks away from the trade deadline. Alex, your thoughts on his injury and what does this mean for the team going forward?
Well, I don't know how much the injury was contributing to his play over the past week because it was, I believe it was mentioned, like you said, about a week ago, and then it flared up during the Kraken game. So if that's the case, then hopefully that, and I'm not going to say hopefully because you don't want your players to be injured, obviously, but hopefully we can attribute some of his poor play to that rib injury, and hopefully he comes back stronger afterwards. I think, if anything, it gives Campbell a much needed rest. I think he really needs a proper rest. And I think the issue is that Petr Mrazek being in the crease, he obviously hasn't really given the fans much to be excited about with his play recently. And so in that sense, I think that there's a bit of an opportunity here because the way that Mrazek handles his next couple of starts can go one of two ways. So obviously he's doing the start for the Heritage Classic today. And what I see from that is he will likely get the start. And if he drops the ball, then I can't imagine Sheldon Keefe's going to want to start him anymore. We might give Erik Källgren a chance to run with the crease. But having said that, if he bounces back from that terrible game against Arizona, puts together a solid performance and uses that to give himself some confidence and gain some momentum, could be a good thing going forward. Obviously, it's a huge opportunity for him to seize the crease with Campbell being out and the only other option being a guy who's only played 9 minutes of an NHL game. So, it'll be interesting to see how this goes.
Yeah, you mentioned, again, it was reported and Keefe revealed that, he tweaked something about a week or so ago. And I don't like to play detective because, many factors could have come into play. It could have happened during the game. It could have happened during the practice. But if it happened a week or so ago, his last start before any of this sort of happened was against the Detroit Red Wings, where he allowed, 5 goals, especially in that game and in the third period to start with 3 really weak goals. Had a week off to recuperate or regroup mentally, comes back against the Vancouver Canucks on the 5th, and then re-aggravated the injury against the Kraken. Somewhere along that lines in between after that game against the Red Wings or either in that game against the Canucks. Something must have happened, but then again, something must have happened during practice as well. And like you said, it is a possibility that injury could be affecting his movement. Because let's face it, when it's your ribs and you're moving your arms and your blockers and everything side to side, it's definitely going to hamper your movement. And especially during against the Kraken game, there was one goal, especially on that 2-on-1 shorthanded goal, where, you see Morgan Rielly, he was playing poor defense. He didn't even take the lane away, but Jack Campbell sort of struggled in his movement to come across and try and block it. And it seemed like he was struggling, especially on that side. I don't know which side of the rib that he injured, but again, no matter what, the rib movement is definitely going to hurt you and impact your movement, especially as a goalie. So definitely something that I took note of, especially during that Kraken game, because it happened right after that. So definitely something to keep an eye on going forward. And as always, we wish Jack Campbell speedy recovery because he's an important part of this team. There is no doubt about it.
Just to quickly correct myself before we move on from the segment, I said that Källgren's only played 9 minutes of an NHL game. I meant he's only made 9 saves in the NHL. He played more than 9 minutes in that last game, so that was a little mistake coming off the tongue there. Just wanted to clear that up.
Mistakes happen. That's the main important thing, especially when we're doing the show. Numbers and stats are flying off the top, and we get confused a bit ourselves. So it's all good. Moving over to the next topic, and we talked about this, or you mentioned this briefly when talking about Campbell. Petr Mrazek. Obviously, the confidence is slowly starting to wane with, the coaching staff. The fans have had enough. If you see on Twitter, you can definitely tell the frustration is there. And the tipping point was that game against the Coyotes, especially those first 2 goals, and especially the second one, where he's trying to make a diving stop, he loses his stick, and then the Jakob Chychrun slap shot just trickles his way in. So, Alex, how short of a leash is Mrazek on right now? And at some point, again, all these topics coincide with each other. When does Sheldon Keefe just say enough is enough?
Well, okay, and I'm going to preface this by saying that I absolutely hate piling on guys when they're not doing well, because I know that the Toronto media already does well enough of that, and you don't want to pile on a guy and kick a guy when he's down. But I honestly think that the leash is going to be the Heritage Classic, because I've been trying to justify Mrazek's performance all season long. At first it was, he was injured for a long time. It's going to take a while for him to get back into a rhythm. And then it was, he's not used to starting this much. He's barely been playing. Like, you just got to give him some time to adjust. But at this point, we're 15 starts into his Leafs tenure, and his save percentage hanging around 880. And it's like, the Leafs, I think, should have won that Arizona game either way. I'm a guy who, I will rightfully criticize the team when they lose to a bad team. And 9 times out of 10, it's not just because of the goalie, but if Mrazek doesn't come in and let in 4 goals on 12 shots against the Coyotes, I think the Leafs win that game 4-1, honestly. Mm-hmm. So, if you give him a chance to rebound against another bad team in the Buffalo Sabres in the Heritage Classic, that's a pretty big stage. Just like I was saying in the last point there about Jack Campbell, Mrazek's got this. He's got 2 ways that he can go about today. And I feel like if at the very least, if he gets the win and he keeps the team in the game, I think he'll get another chance. But if he comes in and he lets in 75% of the shots that he faces right in the first 10 minutes of the game, then I don't think there's going to be much of a leash for him anymore, because at that point, sure, you can argue, Källgren doesn't really have any NHL experience, but at that point, is that a worse option than Mrazek? That's, like I said, don't want to pile on a guy, and I hope that he can find it today. I hope he can inspire a winning streak for the team, because he needs it and the team needs it. But yeah, otherwise, I don't know. I'm not getting my hopes up, and I hope that hopefully he can do something with it.
Yeah, and we always want them to succeed. Like, let's face it, we love this team we follow them every single time, and we want the best for them. But when the play isn't as where it needs to be, especially when it comes to goaltending, the criticism does start to mount up, and rightfully so. Although in common sense, don't go overboard. Like, say Jack Campbell, Petr Mrazek do need to be better, but if people who go overboard, that's just absolutely ridiculous, and that stuff needs to cut out. And I just want to build off on what you said. Sheldon Keefe said you want to give Peter an opportunity to get back in and respond. And he later adds in, he's won 10 games for us. He hasn't played nearly to his ability, but he's won games for us this season. We need to win a game on Sunday. Like you, I believe that this game is going to be the final straw. If not, then when is? I mean, at some point, you need your goalie to be at his best, and he just really hasn't. There are times where he has strung together good 1-2 games, but the consistency just isn't there. And he thought, and Keith saying that, the outdoor game, a good momentum builder, something that Mrazek could work to his advantage. And especially he would like to avenge against the Buffalo Sabres against that 5-1 game that he had. And, I'd argue that I guess he also said he didn't want to put Källgren into that spot. But then again, if Källgren is starting, then in this game, I think this would be a better result because he's going in, he's starting, he knows what to expect, and going into a position mid-game in relief to try and ease the fire of what was happening because of Mrazek letting in 3 really, really bad goals. So I guess you want to give him the opportunity, you want to give him that chance, but then again, how many chances are you going to get from him if you keep on giving it to him? Because that's at this point right now, the points need to matter, and they are 1 point back of the Tampa Bay Lightning for second overall. So if they win today, or if they win, I'm going to preface this in advance, if they win the game against Buffalo, then mission accomplished, and they need to take advantage of the standings.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And just to kind of piggyback on the whole point of starting Erik Källgren, obviously this point's a little bit moot now because Petr Mrazek was confirmed for the start, but I was seeing a lot of people say, that's a lot of pressure on Erik Källgren. This guy has never played an NHL game before, a full NHL game, and you're putting him on the stage for the Heritage Classic. Like, that's a big start for him. And I just want to make a point to note that Erik Källgren, as much as he is a rookie to the NHL, he's not a rookie to pro hockey. Mm-hmm. He was splitting a tandem last year with Victor Fast and in Sweden for the Vaxjo Lakers, ended up taking over for Fast when he went down with an injury, if I recall correctly, and won 10 games. And he was putting up, in NHL standards, Vezina caliber stats. So this guy's 25 years old. He backstopped the top pro league in Sweden to a championship. And then he came to Toronto, and his stats have been, I think he's been on a bit of a cold streak lately in the AHL, but he was doing really well in the AHL. So it's not like we're talking about throwing this 20-year-old rookie who has never, ever even touched pro hockey before into the fire. I think Källgren, obviously with Petr Mrazek and Jack Campbell in the crease at the start of the season, there was never really going to be an opportunity for him to challenge for a spot out of camp. But with stats like that and what he was able to accomplish in Sweden last year, in my opinion, I think that that's a guy who could challenge for NHL minutes on other teams who maybe don't have as concrete of a goaltending situation. So if Mrazek doesn't do well today, then I really don't want to see Keith. I really don't want to see Keith be conservative about starting him because this guy has experience playing pro hockey. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But I really do want to see what he's capable of.
Yeah, to build his numbers with the Toronto Marlies this year, 904 save percentage, 302 goals against average. But the Toronto Marlies, they've been, up and down this season. They've had their good stretches and they've had their bad stretches. And, speaking of Källgren, obviously he came in relief against the game against the Arizona Coyotes. And honestly, he looked really phenomenal. And you wrote a piece, Alex, before the start of the season, talking about, if Erik Källgren will challenge for NHL playing time. And you alluded to the weak goaltending depth that the Maple Leafs have. And you're starting to see that right now where, Campbell and Mrazek are struggling. Joseph Woll came in and looked really good, but now they're getting an opportunity to see Källgren. What were your takeaways from Källgren's performance? And obviously this is going to be a positive momentum builder for him and for the team going forward.
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway, if nothing else, was that the team was confident playing in front of him. You notice that as soon as, and that tends to happen regardless of who the goalie is. If you pull your goalie and you have a new guy coming in, it not only sends a message to the goalie that let in the goals, but it also kind of serves as a wake-up call for the team. It's like, okay, different goalie, there's a different aspect being added to the game here. see if we can turn it around. And I found that the Leafs did that with Källgren. Petr Mrazek got pulled. Erik Källgren came in. He made some big stops right off the hop. And I think that gave the Leafs some confidence saying, hey, listen, we've got Auston Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, John Tavares, all these guys. We are more than capable of scoring 4 goals to come back in this game. So I think in that sense, it worked. And it's kind of for that reason alone. I won't say that reason alone, but that's kind of a big reason as well as why I wanted to see Källgren start for the Heritage Classic, because as much as the Leafs, they're super good to their goaltenders, the media, they always, pump their tires and say, oh, they give us a chance to win. We got to be better in front of them, etc. But it's no secret that Källgren gave the Leafs a much better chance to win than Mrazek did in that game against Arizona. So, I was encouraged. Obviously, he only made 9 saves, but the Leafs are kind of at a point right now where making 9 saves is a good thing. So I'd like to see Källgren get a proper start, maybe get some more looks in the NHL.
Yeah, when he came in, again, he didn't look out of place. He made saves, but some of those saves were very difficult. He dealt with some traffic in front, long shot, one-timer opportunities, and especially that pad save in overtime that led to the breakaway chance for William Nylander, which could have been the deciding factor. And he could have got his first assist in his very first NHL game, which would have been really impressive. But yeah, he was very well composed. He was confident. He didn't panic going into situation. And you just mentioned he stopped all 9 saves that he faced on 5-on-5. Expected goals against was 0.60. Compare that to Mrazek. His expected goals against was 0.93. Let him 4 goals. So yeah, that's I mean, you don't know what else to say with that. The goals against were bad based on what was supposed to be expected based on the amount of shots that he faced. So the numbers they're a very tricky thing. I will say that, but yeah, I do agree that Källgren should be able to get more starts, and this should be a starting point to get him some opportunities, because maybe he could be the factor going forward if they do decide to move on from Mrazek, because there were rumors about that. To recap the show, once again, sign up for themorningskate.io, the daily newsletter from the Hockey Writers, where you get your latest news, updates, facts, trivias, you name it, you get it all. You just plug in your email, sign up, and it will come straight to your inbox. You will not be disappointed when you subscribe. Now to get into some more, optimistic news or optimistic hockey talk, let's say. We've talked about how great Auston Matthews is at scoring goals and his ability to develop a very strong two-way game. And right now, he is in the thick of the Hart Trophy conversation. Alex, everyone is going to say, oh, typical Toronto bias media or Toronto podcast talk, whatever you want to call it. They're just going to say, oh, Auston Matthews isn't the greatest. He shouldn't be in the Hart. There's much of a case to say that Matthews is worthy of the Hart Trophy this year. What has stood out for him compared to previous years?
I think it's just how well-rounded his game is compared to previous years. Ever since he came into the league in 2016-17 and scored 40 goals in his first season, we've known that Auston Matthews is a guy who can score 40 goals. So if he was strictly being a goal scorer, maybe there'd be less of a case, but it's the fact that he's scoring goals. He's elevating the guys around him, regardless of who he's playing with. He's playing great defense. And I've been noticing him starting to throw the body a little bit more, honestly. And I know that's obviously not something you're going to look at when you're considering Hart candidates, but I think all those factors combined, and then I think he's just got a real ability to put the team on his back when he has to. There's nobody else on the team I can say that I would genuinely trust to just, pull 2 goals out of nowhere and get the team right back in the game. But Auston Matthews has done that on a number of occasions. And he's just a guy that I feel like, regardless of what the situation is, where on the ice he is, he just always gives them a chance to get back in the game. And he's always a threat to score a goal. So, yeah, I think I think that those things for sure have definitely added to Matthews' case for the Hart Trophy this year.
First in goals with 44, 5th in points with 76. Although recently McDavid has separated the lead quite a bit, but at one point he was only 4 or 5 points back of McDavid and Draisaitl. In terms of even strength goals, he has 31. And according to my math, if I am correct, out of his 31 goals, or out of the 44 goals that he scored, 70% of them are at even strength. He only has 13 power play goals to show for. So he's showing his impact on 5-on-5. And you mentioned his ability to take control of the game and put the team on his shoulders when it matters most. You saw the comeback and push back with the tying goal against the Seattle Kraken, leading to Mitch Marner's game-winning goal. And then, him scoring the empty netter for the hat trick. You saw him lead the charge again with that, amazing goal, but Scott Wedgwood was just barely a little bit late in leading the comeback against the Arizona Coyotes. So the fact that he's able to show that game-changing aspect to his game right now, obviously, people are going to say we need to see it in the playoffs, and we do. But we've seen this confidence is at an all-time high for Auston Matthews right now, and the fact that he's on a tear right now, I think it's going to carry over to when it matters most, and that's when you want to see him at his best, and Mitch Marner and everybody else. And I think he's taking more of a leadership role, being more of a factor on and off the ice. You see the emotion every single time he's there. And even after when things aren't going his way with that blown call, but the emotion is there, the intensity, the energy that he has, he wants to succeed. And we're seeing that right now, putting the team on his back and being more of a factor than McDavid and Draisaitl right now, compared to the Oilers, who are just, on that edge of a wild card spot right now. And the Maple Leafs are sitting 2-3, possibly vaulting into that second spot. So yeah, this is definitely a new Auston Matthews and another level that we have seen compared to previous years. And he just keeps on getting better and better. Moving over to some of the trade deadline talk. Obviously, it is coming up in about a week. I'm checking my calendar right now because I can't tell time. Yeah, we're less than a week away from the NHL trade deadline, March 21st. Obviously, the talk is going to be around of who's going to go where. The trade talk has already picked up. Every team at the Hockey Writers has been talking about trade pieces and players on the go. Recently, Maple Leaf scouts were at the Arizona-Boston game. And, obviously they're not looking to make a trade with the Boston Bruins, let's face it. But considering the fact that they're there for the Arizona Coyotes, there's a big name big name player by the name of Jakob Chychrun. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but
never.
He's pretty good. So yeah. I'm just curious to find out. There's been talk saying that, the Maple Leafs aren't on Chychrun. The price may be too high, and rightfully so, because he is a really impact player. They may look somewhere else. But you got to wonder if that is the main reason why they were probably there.
I mean, yeah, I would have to assume that that's why they were there. I can't really think of anybody else on the Coyotes that the Leafs would maybe be wanting to get a good look at, except for maybe Karel Vejmelka. But aside from Vejmelka, I'm not sure I can see anybody else on the Coyotes that the Leafs would truly be interested in. I think it's pretty straightforward. The team that Arizona has, they already pulled out Lyubushkin. So getting Ilya Lyubushkin, I think, maybe if he was still on the Coyotes right now, that we'd say, he's probably scouting Lyubushkin. Maybe he's not shooting for Chychrun, but the Leafs already have Lyubushkin. So I don't really have too much else to add to this because I don't know what the scouts are doing. I don't know what they're there for. I think you're right. They're probably not going to make a trade with Boston, but Chychrun is obviously a big ticket name, and it'll be interesting to see if anything comes of that. But I can't say I know why they were scouting Arizona for any other reason besides Chychrun.
I remember before the game against the Coyotes, Chychrun loved Ilya Lyubushkin, and he talked about how great of a guy he is, how just a really great teammate to be around with. So obviously having that, that familiarity with Lyubushkin, maybe Dubas should try and pull the trigger on a deal to try and get Jakob Chychrun in, and maybe find that Lyubushkin-Chychrun pairing where, maybe they could find that dominance again. Who knows? But like you, I maybe they are also looking at Vejmelka, but it's kind of hard for Arizona to try and trade their only goaltender that's, been standing on his head quite a bit. The record doesn't show up, but he does have decent save percentage numbers. So for them to trade him, maybe, but I would put that more into highly unlikely that the Maple Leafs will, even if they were trying to improve on Mrazek, maybe they ship Mrazek over for Vejmelka. The Arizona Coyotes want to take on space. The Maple Leafs have assets to try and improve on that. I just don't know if it's going to work. I get there in tank mode, but you know what? He's been their one bright spot, and I don't want to try and, make it as worse as it is for them. But I think he stays, Vejmelka. And again, the price for Chychrun is going to be really, really high. So we'll see where that goes, because that is definitely going to be something to keep an eye on as we move forward to the NHL trade deadline. And that is all for this week's episode of the Maple Leafs Lounge. Thank you for tuning in. And before we sign off, if I haven't convinced you before, once again, sign up for morningskate.io, the daily newsletter from the hockey writers, where you get the latest news, updates, facts, trivias, you name it, you get it all. Just sign up with your email and it'll come straight directly to your inbox. For Alex Hobson, I am Petr Baracchini, and we will see you next time on the Maple Leafs Lounge.